Untrained meteorologist reporting on the snow. I mean, it's in the streets. God damn.
Okay, I thought I'd get a new picture, so here you go. It's a picture of a cock that I managed to draw into a thing I call Dick Bug. So now that's gonna be my picture, Dick Bug. Yeah, you better be happy. Welcome to part 2.
You ignorant slaves.
Ah, yes. Osiris the Consumed King. If I had any advice to give for this boss, it would be don't stay in front of him, unless it's the first phase. In the first phase, do what you did for the Cursed Rotted Greatwood. Hit him directly in the dick. Hit him so hard his dick falls off, thus making him stronger. As we gathered in the last episode, losing your penis makes you stronger according to my ex-wife. That's what you do to Osiris, and he goes completely apeshit. Basically, the fight of Osiris starts with him talking to you, you reply, he goes, "The fuck you say to me, you little shit!" And then he goes completely apeshit. Basically, this is the phase where you don't want to get in front of him because he has an insta-charge move with barely any wind-up that will do a ton of damage if it hits, and a Frost Breath attack. Those are his only 2 attacks that really pose a threat in the slightest. As with the lore of Osiris, I think he just wanted to be a dragon, so he made himself a dragon. And yeah, but he's not quite a dragon. So he's Champion Gundyr, a reskin of the easiest boss in the entire game. But except this time, he's hard. I know, that's what she said.
Right, I'll tell you what, you fat little cunt. You're boring. Go and fuck yourself. Go and fucking crawl in a dirty, dank little hole where you fucking come from, you dirty, dragon-eating little fucking spastic.
Get ready for sexual annihilation from one of the best bosses in the game. I do like this boss. Champion Gundyr is definitely in the top 10 in this game.
I just simultaneously whipped a nene!
You know, Champion Gundyr kind of shows, like, what's good about some of the night bosses in Dark Souls. Like, sometimes you just want to fight another dude. You don't want to fight a massive monster with 16 bums for a face. Oh yeah, how to beat him, parry him. I mean, there's no other advice to give. Just parry him. You can't stay close to him because he'll do that annoying charge move. You can't stay far away from him because he'll jump. He has the best tracking of any boss in the entire game. Yeah, just parry him. That's the only advice I can give. There's really nothing else. I honestly don't know why people like Pontiff so much. Every single time I fought him, it's been the same awful experience. I do not like Pontiff. He is the second most overrated boss in the entire game, after someone who I'm yet to mention. That being said, he's not a bad boss. He's just... I don't like him. He's a dickhead. He's a fucking pillock plonker. He's a goddamn tool, you know?
I just simultaneously whipped a nene!
Pontiff is only here for one reason. You can parry him. But, I'm actually going to ignore that one reason and mention another reason, which I literally forgot about. And it's the thing that they do in the video. They literally just hold up a shield and strafe around him. It completely trivializes the entire boss fight. It can't do anything. So, like, even if you're not a parry god, like me, then, you know, you can still cheese him. So, I don't know why I didn't put him behind quite a few other bosses, because he's actually really easy. Whoops. Soul of Cinder. winner of the award most likely to make you cry. And he's also the final boss in the game. You know, if we're going by nothing but my first playthrough alone, you would be in the top 5, Soul of Cinder. But because we're not, and we're going by all of my repeated playthroughs, you are not very high. Purely just because in everything but my first playthrough, I've beaten you first attempt. Which is, yeah, it's dragging you down a little bit. But you're definitely a fantastic boss, top 10 boss. And he's definitely very hard because he's still this high. So the first phase is the reason why he gets this high. His first phase is able to put on so much pressure due to his many different modes. The Falchion mode in particular is really hard, but the Mage mode is really easy. He has very offbeat timings in the first phase, and his damage is extremely high. He's also quite fast in the first phase, which is something he doesn't often get credit for, but the Soul of Cinder is very fast. After you beat the first phase, take his health bar down the entire way, he will initiate the Wombo combo, and Gwyn's music will come on. And, this is probably the best part of the entire fight, if I'm being honest. It's also one of the saddest moments in all of Soul's history. I think it's second to the Sith fight from Dark Souls 1, where he starts limping, which is pretty sad. Yeah, but anyway, don't be fooled by Gwyn's music. This Wombo combo will fuck you up. It will get you. You will not like it. And then phase 2 comes round, and phase 2 is actually quite easy. On my first playthrough, I beat phase 2 on my very first attempt. And I've never died to phase 2, ever. So, I mean, it's quite easy, even though he has more attacks at his disposal. It's just more easy for some reason, and I don't know why. So, yeah, that's why he's here and not in the top 5. Okay, I should probably get on with it, because I've only spoken about like 4 bosses, and we've already been here for 8 minutes, so yes, I need to get a move on. Next, we have my least favourite boss to fight, the Dragon Slayer Armor. I know I said the Ancient Wyvern is the worst boss in the game by miles, and I still stand by that. I say the Dragon Slayer Armor is my least favourite boss to fight, because at least the Ancient Wyvern ends with 1 hit. The Dragon Slayer Armor takes ages. He has so much health. He has the single hardest attack to dodge in the entire game. The move where he swings the axe back behind his head and then does this massive spin, which covers the second largest area of any melee attack in the entire game, apart from Midir's tail swipe, right? And he does some of the highest damage in the entire game, and he's a mid-game boss. His shield is scarier than his axe. Like, why? Whose idea was that? You know, I only hate fighting this guy because I suck at dodging him. It's not even like the fact that he's a bad boss. I don't think he's a bad boss at all. It's just I hate fighting him. I just can't dodge his attacks. If you want my advice on how to beat this boss, I don't have any advice, because this is probably my worst boss to fight in the entire game. The only thing I can say is that you want to try and get behind him, so then he does the AoE slam, which is really heavily punishable, so you just stand there and swing at him. But, like, if you can, just summon a phantom to do it for you, because I genuinely do not have any advice for this guy. The only reason I put the Dragon Slayer Armor below, like, quite a few other bosses, despite all the things I spoke about, is because like, if I knew how to dodge him, I think I would be able to consistently beat him first try. Like, as soon as you're able to figure out how to dodge him, I don't think he's really got that much. But, yeah, I can't dodge him, so he's really hard for me.
We unkindled are worthless. Can't even die right. Gives me conniptions.
Dancer of the Boreal Valley. She barely manages to beat the Dragon Slayer Armor, purely just because she's much faster. She doesn't do more damage. She's not even harder to dodge. She's just much faster. If you get hit by the first move of any of her many combos, you will die immediately. And not getting hit is quite hard because of how fast those moves comes out. I can give my advice though. Hug her left leg until she goes phase 2, where she reaches into Aldrich's cum and brings out a second sword. Aldrich's cum sword. And then she starts spinning. It's like if Frost from Mortal Kombat and Crash Bandicoot had a baby that they forced to do crack. And they also forced her to be a hammer thrower. Yeah, that's the dancer of the Boreal Valley.
Stop screaming! Stop!
This attack is terrifying. I would say either just run or hug that booty. You know, if you hug her
ass,
like literally, she'll miss you most of the time. It's actually much easier to avoid. And when she does the final spin, just dodge. And then bang, you got a longer punish. Easy. And then just stick to hugging her left leg, and there you go. You've beaten the dancer of Boreal Valley. But, yeah, those combo attacks are absolutely brutal. In the end, after everything I'd said, though, I still think the only bosses that are truly challenging are the ones in the top 5. Now, considering that very bold statement I just made, you might be thinking, well, MC Uniboob, why did you put the Nameless King at number 6? I thought the Nameless King was pretty hard. Well, I'll get into that, but first I want to say that the Nameless King is probably the most overrated boss in the entire game. Sure, the second phase is alright, it's nothing special, right? The first phase ruins anything good the second phase possibly has, because the first phase is painful. It's one of my least favourite things to do in the entire game. It's just this stupid dragon thing that uses nothing but the flying move and the flame breath attack, and it takes more damage on its head, both of which are really hard to hit the head on, and he just fucks with the camera for 3 minutes as well, because he's so big and he always gets in the way. Yeah, and then the second phase is alright. He does extremely high damage, and he has a lot of health, but he's very easy to dodge, which is why he's outside the top 5. He's very easy to dodge. He's probably, in my opinion, one of the easiest bosses in the game to dodge. It's the only reason he's not in the top 5. He might even take the top spot on the list if he was slightly faster. But, yeah, you're staying at number 6, Nameless King. That's really all I have to say. I don't like this boss. Let's get on to someone more interesting. I mean, at least your cutscene's kind of cool. You have one of the most metal cutscenes in the entire game. But, yeah.
Hey guys, today I'm gonna be turning Super Saiyan 3. You ready? Let's go.
I love this goddamn boss, man. This is one of the 4 bosses I would say that is like S tier quality, like for going on a tier list. So, I mean, if you've seen the boss, you definitely know why it's this high already. You fight 2 massive demon things at the same time, who then combine to turn into Chad Demon, who then sexually pulverizes your anus. There isn't much advice to give on a boss like this, because it's really just learn the attacks and learn how to deal with them both at the same time. But advice that I can give is kill the demon from below last. That gives you the easier of the second phase to deal with. And always try to stay close to the Demon Prince when they do go second phase. Because the longer the punish window you get on that laser move, the more easy the fight is going to get. I think these demons might be blind. You know, you're just fighting them and then you dodge through their legs. They just carry on swinging in front of them. And they're really dumb. They're really dumb. Like, is there actual lore context behind them being blind? I actually want to know this. This is a legit question. Are they blind?
Da Vinci?
So, my choice for 4th hardest boss overall and hardest boss in the base game of Dark Souls 3 is Lothric and Lorien, the Twin Princes. This is also one of my favourite bosses in the entire game, and it's also my favourite boss from the base game. There's a reason they land this high. Every single one of Lorien's attacks has a fire after effect, apart from one, which has a magic after effect, which means that his damage skyrockets. And in Phase 2, Lothric climbs on his back like a little monkey, and then he starts firing projectiles at you. At the same time, you have to dodge Lorien's already really high damaging sweeps. Bearing in mind, Lorien teleports around the arena like all the time, like he's the fucking Nightcrawler from the X-Men. This boss has probably my favourite cutscene in the entire game, and in my first playthrough, I died to this boss more than I died to any other boss. Fun fact, Lothric is one of only 2 characters in the entire game where when they talk, their mouth has an animation, the other one being Andre the Blacksmith. Oh yeah, in terms of difficulty, there's another thing I forgot to mention. This boss potentially has the largest health bar in the entire franchise, by miles as well. Practically infinite, because every time Lorien dies, Lothric resurrects him. So if you don't hit Lothric at all, Lorien can die, get resurrected, die, get resurrected, infinitely. So you need to kill Lothric in order to kill Lorien, which is much easier said than done because Lothric is on Lorien's back and Lorien has really good tracking. Honestly, there isn't too much advice I can give apart from 2. First off, use a fast weapon. You don't really want to be using a great sword or a straight sword, especially a straight sword. You don't want to use that. You want to be getting as much damage as possible in the very short punish windows you get against them. So I recommend something like the Sellsword Twin Blades enchanted with lightning. And the most important one, well, there's 2 that's quite important, but the most important one is lock on to Lorien. If you don't lock on to Lorien, then you are dead, because he is practically impossible to dodge when you're not locked on. There's a few other things as well, like roll every single time Lorien teleports, like immediately, and also roll as the attack lands, not when the tail ends, because Lorien has really weird timings. But yeah, it's one of my favourite bosses in the game, had the best music in the entire game, so yeah, my hat's off to you, Lothric and Lorien, hats off to you. Slave Knight Gale. He's fighting you over the blood of the Dark Soul, but he'll also show you the inside of your asshole. This is hands down the best boss FromSoft has ever made, and the best boss in the entire game. So the first thing you'll realise when fighting Gale is that his health bar is the single largest bar we've covered so far by a landslide. Lothric and Lorien don't count as there are multiple bars. Phase 1 starts out with Gale acting like a weird amalgamation of the Orphan of Kos and Artorias, and his attacks are fairly quick, but they're not that hard to dodge, although he does do endgame damage, so be careful. As soon as you get his health bar down a third, he'll enter a cutscene, say a copyrighted franchise, then stand up like a badass. Phase 2 is completely different from Phase 1, because Gale now has red powers. He also isn't crawling. Phase 2 is fairly easy, just watch out for his cape. And then take him down another third, and his music will change to "Ah!" And he will start flying and summoning red soul balls and lightning, and he jumps while using his crossbow, and it's so awesome! On New Game Plus cycles, this boss gets harder and harder to where he becomes the hardest boss in the game on only the 3rd cycle. But there is a reliable way to beat him, which stops him from being any higher. Use the Drang Twin Hammers, enchant them with poison resin, and use the Pontiff Left Eye Ring. The thing that makes Gale hard is his health bar, but he's weak to poison and strike, so that way you just annihilate his health bar.
Is this the blood? The blood of the conniptions.
Sister Freya and Father Ariandel. The 3rd best boss in the game after Lothric and Lorien and Slave Knight Gale. Sister Freya turns me on. I mean, look at the way she polishes that scythe. Oh, goddamn. I don't know what she looks like underneath that veil, so I'm just going to assume that she looks like the KDA version of Evelyn from League of Legends. Okay, enough of the time wasting. Let's just immediately get into why this boss is hard. Sister Freya is just a hair too fast for Dark Souls 3 combat speed. But in fairness, if she was any slower, it would be really easy to just constantly backstab her until she's dead, making her one of the easiest bosses in the game. So I think they found a fairly smooth balance. This brings me to my first tip. Pick a fast weapon. If you pick a greatsword, it'll be very hard to hit her. Also, there are a lot of moves where they're very easy to backstab. Especially the invisible jumping attack thing that she does. Yeah, that's very easy to backstab. Take advantage of that. Phase 1 isn't too interesting. The music is very slow. Sister Freya is, she's pretty fast. She's pretty hard. Not enough to get her all the way up this list by herself, but she's fairly hard. After you take down the first health bar, another amazing cutscene will play. This is probably the longest cutscene in the game, I'm pretty sure. And, Sister Freya will fight you as well as Father Ariandel. And Father Ariandel doesn't even bother getting out of his chair. He's like a Discord mod, just never gets out of his chair. Fighting them both at the same time could be pretty difficult, so if I had to give a tip, it would be go for Father Ariandel. Just completely ignore Sister Freya. Trust me, it'll be so much harder if you go for Sister Freya in this phase. Then after you beat this phase, the first time you do it, you'll get a Titanite slab, which is really nice. And then they resurrect Sister Freya a second time. I forgot to mention that they do that the first time, but they do it a second time. And, then she gains black flames, and she is much faster, and does more damage, and has more attacks. And it's just harder in every single way. Bearing in mind the music is now like instead of like the somber tone you heard right at the beginning. This boss is fantastic, and I hate to be that guy, but I think this boss is a pretty good excuse to say that video games should be considered a form of art. I genuinely think this boss is that good, and I still think it's the third best boss in the game. That really shows how much I like Slave Knight Gale and Lothric and Lorien. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the second phase and how well they managed that gank fight? Usually with gank fights, the way you do it is by putting pillars and stuff in the way to break up aggro, like what they did with Ornstein and Smaug from Dark Souls 1. But with this boss, it's all mechanical. There's nothing in the arena to break up aggro. It's just Father Ariandel and Sister Freya being so different from each other that you're able to go after one without the other one, like, ganking you too hard. It's really well done. Well, with all this being said, let's get into our final boss. And if you've played Dark Souls 3, you knew who it was from the beginning. Of course it was Madeira. Who else would it be? I'm just gonna say this. No, I'm gonna shout this from the mountaintops. Thank God! Madeira's entire body is in a hitbox all the time with these big beast bosses. Every single part of their body is a hitbox, so their slight movement of their leg hits you and it hurts. It does full damage. But it's like, I get them being big and then bumping into you will probably hurt, but it shouldn't do as much damage as the actual attack, right? Madeira probably has the best way I've ever seen a boss stop people from getting underneath it. It literally just takes more damage if you hit it in the face. And honestly, if you're having any trouble with this boss, don't search up a guide, because there's this one guide that constantly tells you to avoid attacking the head. Don't avoid attacking the head. That's literally what you want to do. Don't follow that guide. It's like the most viewed one. It sucks. Well, let's get into why Madeira's hard. I mean, Madeira has the largest single health bar of any boss. I know I said Gale has a very large single health bar, but yeah, Madeira has like 2,000 more HP than he does. Madeira only takes proper damage if you hit him in the head. He takes less damage if you hit him on the rest of the body. Madeira moves all around the arena, and some of his attacks are really hard to dodge. And also, he does the most damage of any boss in the entire game. Couple that with his insanely large health bar and the fact his attacks are really easy to dodge, you're gonna rack up a fair few deaths against this guy. Tips for beating him. I've already said don't follow that guide because it doesn't work, but if I had to give another tip, I'd say use the Wolf Knight Greatsword or the Farron Greatsword. I recommend the Wolf Knight Greatsword because it makes this fight into one of the best fights in the game. I was never really a fan of Madeira, and then I fought him using the Wolf Knight Greatsword on New Game Plus 4, where he should have been the hardest boss in the game. I beat him. Not only did I beat him first try, but it was probably my favourite boss of that entire playthrough. It was really good. I'd say Madeira's the 5th best boss in the game, but mechanically, he's 2nd after Sister Frida.
Was that the bite of 87?
As for the lore of this guy, I'm pretty sure he was being attacked by the Abyss and then he just ate it. It's like, wow. At least he's not a coward like what Gundyr is, just hiding from the Abyss like a little pussy. But, yep. Madeira is the hardest boss in this game and is one of the hardest bosses in the entirety of the Dark Souls franchise.
Oh my god!
Wow, that video took a while. It took over a month compared to the previous video, which took about 6 hours. So, I don't know what happened there, and I don't even think anyone's gonna see it because this is a part 2. So, you're gonna have to watch part 1 in order to understand what's going on in this one, but do I care? No. You know, I'm gonna start making all the rest of my videos like this, really highly edited, really fun, because this was good. I really enjoyed making a video like this. This is easily the best video I've ever made. As before, shout out to Boss Rank Database and the Democracy for the idea. I mean, Boss Fight Database, I got the name wrong. And if you watched all the way to the end, thank you for watching. And if you're not already, please consider subscribing. It will really help me out. And until next time, peace.